"The Duke will never love anyone." Maggie Shaw had heard that phrase far too many times over the years, repeated with absolute certainty as if it were a historical fact carved in stone, not just idle high society gossip. But tonight, standing before the Duke himself, Percival Sterling, she did something that surprised even her. With a courage that bordered on recklessness and a heart pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it, Maggie confessed. She confessed the bet. She confessed that she believed everyone was wrong about him. She confessed that she didn't see a man incapable of love, but a man who simply hadn't chosen to love yet. The silence that followed was deafening. She expected anger, disdain, perhaps even the public humiliation she surely deserved for such audacity. But the Duke did none of that. He smiled. A rare, almost imperceptible smile that completely transformed his austere face. And in that instant, Maggie knew she had just changed the course of her own life. The world stopped, time froze, and nothing would ever be the same again. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment with a rating from 1 to 10 and let us know what city you're tuning in from. May this moment bring reflection and emotion to your heart. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the beginning, to the moment a woman decided to bet against the certainty of an entire society, and a man began to question the truths he believed were absolute. Duke Percival Sterling was known for many things in the elegant circles of New York's high society. His severe good looks, which made women sigh and men envious. His sharp intellect, which made him a formidable opponent in any debate. His impeccable posture, which seemed to have been sculpted by generations of old money, but never in all his 34 years had he been known for showing genuine affection for any human being. Tall, at a commanding 6'1" that made him stand out in any crowd, Percival had a presence that demanded attention without ever asking for it. His hair was a dark brown that looked black in certain lights, always impeccably slicked back, revealing a broad, aristocratic forehead. His face was angular, with high cheekbones and a jaw that looked like it had been carved from marble. His lips were thin, rarely curving into a smile, and his nose was straight and elegant, perfect for looking down on others with that air of superiority he cultivated so well. But it was his eyes that truly defined the man. A stormy silver grey, they held a calculated coldness that could intimidate the bravest of souls. There was intelligence in those eyes, yes, but also a distance that seemed insurmountable, as if he were observing the world through a wall of glass that no one had ever managed to break. Elegant, reserved, and emotionally inaccessible, the Duke moved through the social seasons like a distant observer, never truly involved, never genuinely touched by anything or anyone. The most beautiful women tried to capture his attention. The most powerful families offered up their daughters. Nothing worked. He danced when etiquette required, made conversation when courtesy demanded, but his eyes always remained empty of that spark that signaled real interest. "The Duke will never love anyone" became more than just a comment. It became an accepted truth, repeated with absolute certainty in candlelit ballrooms, accompanied by discreet laughter, veiled wagers, and an almost cruel curiosity about which fool would be the next to try and fail. Maggie Shaw was 26 years old, and she was no fool. At least, she didn't used to be. The daughter of a successful entrepreneur who had made his fortune in the fine textile industry, she occupied that strange space between the newly wealthy and the traditional aristocracy, rich enough to attend the same events, well-educated enough not to make any social blunders, but never truly accepted as one of them. She was beautiful in a vibrant way that contrasted with the pale, restrained beauty of the high society ladies. Her hair was a dark auburn, the color of polished mahogany, that caught the light and turned it to fire. She wore it in elaborate updos that could never quite contain the rebellious curls that insisted on escaping to frame her face. Her eyes were a vivid green, the color of emeralds lit from within, far too expressive to hide any emotion. When she was happy, they sparkled like jewels. When she was annoyed, they flashed like lightning. When she was thoughtful, they darkened to the shade of a deep forest. Her face was oval, with high cheekbones that flushed easily and a determined chin that hinted at a stubborn streak. Her lips were full, naturally pink, and curved easily into smiles that lit up any room. Her skin had the tone of a ripe peach, sprinkled with golden freckles she had long since given up trying to hide. It was the kind of beauty that didn't follow the standards of the time, but was impossible to ignore for that very reason. Maggie also possessed an intelligence she didn't hide behind the modesty expected of women in her position. She read voraciously, spoke her mind freely, and questioned things openly. This made her fascinating to some and an inconvenience to many. She had learned to navigate this fine line with a sharp wit and a stubborn refusal to shrink herself to fit other people's expectations. She had something very important to lose, the freedom to be exactly who she was, without becoming the subject of constant speculation, without having her every move analyzed and every word twisted by the cruel tongues of society. The bet was born on a boring afternoon, during a luncheon that dragged on like all luncheons among women who pretended to like each other. The topic of the Duke came up, as it always did, accompanied by the same old comments. "Poor thing, anyone who still holds out hope," a socialite said, her tone dripping with false pity. "The man is incapable of feeling. He was born without a heart." "He wasn't born without a heart," Maggie replied before she could stop herself. "He just hasn't found a reason to use it yet." The silence that followed was thick with surprise and something akin to cruel delight. All the women turned to her with expressions that ranged from shock to predatory amusement. "And you think you could be that reason, dear?" the socialite asked, her smile as sharp as a razor. Maggie should have backed down. She should have laughed it off and changed the subject. Instead, she lifted her chin with that stubbornness her mother always said would get her into trouble one day. "I think anyone could be, given the right moment and the right approach. It's not a matter of capability, it's a matter of choice." "So you'd bet the Duke can love?" "I bet he can, and I bet you're wrong to believe he can't." It wasn't a financial wager. It was something far more dangerous. She bet her reputation, her pride, and, without admitting it out loud, her own capacity to feel. Because deep down, in a place she didn't examine too closely, Maggie was also beginning to doubt whether it was possible to find true love in a world so full of masks and games. The days that followed brought a restlessness that Maggie couldn't shake. The bet had been made, the words had been spoken, and now she had to decide whether she had the courage to follow through or let it all die as just another empty boast from a drawing room. It was during a ball at the T.I. Caldwell's mansion that she made her decision. The Duke was there as always, occupying a corner of the ballroom with that presence that seemed to suck the light from his surroundings. He wasn't dancing, just observing, his grey eyes scanning the crowd with aristocratic disinterest. Maggie took a deep breath, smoothed the skirts of her emerald green gown that matched her eyes, and walked toward him. Each step felt heavier than the last, and her heart was pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. "Mr. Sterling," she greeted him, executing a perfect curtsy. His grey eyes turned to her, assessing, cold. "Miss Shaw." The fact that he knew her name was surprising enough. Maggie swallowed her nerves and forced herself to hold his intimidating gaze. "I have something to tell you," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor inside. "And I apologize in advance if what I'm about to say seems presumptuous or offensive." A dark eyebrow rose slightly. "I'm intrigued. Go on. A few days ago during a luncheon, I made a bet about you. The silence that followed was heavy. Maggie saw something flicker in his eyes, something she couldn't identify, but it definitely wasn't his usual indifference. And what might this bet be? He asked, his voice carefully neutral. I bet that people are wrong about you, that you're not incapable of love, as everyone says, that you've simply chosen not to yet. She expected anger. She expected disdain. She expected to be dismissed with some cutting remark that would make her want to melt into the ballroom floor. But the Duke smiled, a rare, almost imperceptible smile that momentarily softened the severity of his features and completely transformed his face. And why are you telling me this? He asked. Most people would have kept it a secret, worked in the shadows to win their bet, because it doesn't seem honest to try to prove something about someone without them knowing, and because... She hesitated, then continued with that honesty that was her trademark. Because I don't believe anyone is incapable of love, just that some need more courage than others to allow themselves to feel. The Duke watched her for a long moment, his grey eyes studying her in a way that made her feel completely exposed. Was it possible he could see through all her defenses? Was it possible he could sense how much she herself feared letting herself feel? You are either very brave or very foolish, Miss Shaw, he said finally. I haven't decided which. Perhaps a little of both, she replied with a smile she couldn't suppress. Perhaps. He inclined his head, that aristocratic gesture that indicated consideration. And what do you intend to do now? Try to seduce me to win your bet? No, I intend only to be honest. The rest is your choice. Something in his gaze shifted then, something subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Interest, perhaps, or curiosity. Maggie wasn't sure, but she knew she had achieved something few others had. She had surprised him. I have a proposal, he said, after a long pause. If you are so certain that I am wrong about myself, you may accompany me to a few social events, not as a promise of anything, not as a courtship, simply as company. And what do you get out of it? The opportunity to prove you wrong. Or perhaps, he hesitated in a way that seemed unnatural for him. Perhaps the opportunity to find out if I'm the one who's wrong. Maggie accepted. She accepted knowing. She was entering a game with unclear rules. She accepted knowing she could end up destroyed. She accepted because something in that rare smile made her believe it was worth the risk. The weeks that followed were a delicate dance of approach and distance. The Duke maintained his reserved posture in public, his usual coldness firmly in place. But Maggie began to notice small cracks in the armor he wore so expertly. At social events, he appeared by her side with a regularity that did not go unnoticed. They talked about books, about politics, about philosophy. He discovered she had surprisingly well-formed opinions on economics. She discovered that behind that austere facade was a dry wit that made her laugh when she least expected it. The first event that shook the careful balance between them occurred during a stroll through the gardens at a countryside gala. Maggie tripped on a hidden root, and before she could fall, his hands steadied her with a firmness that completely contradicted his distant demeanor. For a moment, they were too close, their faces inches apart, their eyes locked. Maggie saw something flash in his gray eyes, something warm, something alive, something that was definitely not coldness or control. Then he let her go, took a step back, and the mask was back in place. But she had seen it, and she knew that he knew she had seen it. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into something Maggie didn't dare to name. She began to notice the Duke watching her when he thought she wasn't looking, quick glances he would avert when she turned his way. A subtle attention to the details of what she said, recalling conversations from weeks earlier with surprising accuracy. Society, meanwhile, watched with growing fascination. The gossip multiplied. Like weeds, some bet that Maggie would end up humiliated. Others speculated about what kind of spell she had cast on the Ice Duke. Few believed that anything real could be happening. Maggie decided not to try to impress him. Instead of changing into what she imagined he might want, she became completely herself. Witty when the situation called for it. Curious about everything. Direct when necessary, even if it meant disagreeing with him in public. Percival, accustomed to women who wore social masks as elaborate as his own, found something deeply disarming in her. Someone who didn't demand confessions of love, who didn't press for declarations, who didn't beg for scraps of attention. Someone who was simply there, being who she was, without asking him to be anything other than what he could be. "Why don't you try to impress me?" he asked one evening, as they sat in a relatively private corner of a ballroom. "All the others do." "Because I don't want you to like a fake version of me," she answered simply. "If something happens between us, I want it to be real. And if nothing happens, at least I'll have kept my dignity." And the bet? The bet was never about winning. It was about believing, and I still believe. He looked at her for a long moment, his grey eyes softening in a way she rarely saw. "You are the most disconcerting person I have ever met." "I'll take that as a compliment. It was intended as one." The grand ball of the season brought the most significant change. Percival danced with Maggie more than once, something he never did with anyone. The first waltz could be explained away as courtesy. The second raised eyebrows. The third caused an open commotion. During the last, a dance, he pulled her closer than protocol allowed. Not scandalously so, but enough for her to feel the warmth of his body, the scent of sandalwood and leather that always clung to him. "You realize what you're doing, don't you?" she whispered. "All of society is watching us." "I know," he replied, his voice low against her ear, "and for the first time, I don't care." Maggie's heart soared. She wanted to believe. She desperately wanted to believe those words meant what they seemed to mean. But years of caution made her hesitate. "Why now?" "Because I'm tired of pretending. I feel nothing. And because you've shown me that feeling doesn't have to be a weakness." When the music ended, another gentleman approached to ask Maggie for the next dance. It was Maurice Davenport, a handsome and charming man who had shown interest in her at previous events. She accepted out of politeness, but throughout the entire dance, she felt Percival's gaze on her. And what she saw when she finally looked back at him surprised her. It wasn't his usual coldness. It was discomfort. It was jealousy. It was something he clearly didn't know how to hide because he'd never had to learn. That night, when they found a moment of privacy in the silent library, Percival revealed more than he ever had to anyone. "I never learned to trust feelings," he confessed, his voice heavy with a vulnerability that seemed to pain him. "My father considered emotions a weakness. My mother died when I was a child, and he made sure I never cried for anything again. I learned to control everything, every thought, every reaction, every desire. Control was safe, feeling was dangerous." Maggie listened in silence, her heart aching for the little boy who had been forced to turn himself to stone to survive. "And now?" she asked softly. "Now I've met someone who makes me question everything I thought I knew about myself. And it terrifies me in ways I can't explain. Being afraid doesn't mean you can't love. It means that love is important enough to be scary." He looked at her with those grey eyes that no longer seemed so cold, and Maggie saw something there that made her heart stop for a second. She saw a man on the edge of a cliff, trying to find the courage to jump. "The bet," she said softly. "It was never about proving you could love. It was about showing that you could choose not to run away." Time, that relentless master that waits for no one, continued its course. The season was drawing to a close, and all of society awaited the outcome of the drama they had followed with morbid fascination. Most were betting on Maggie's failure. A select few were beginning to question their certainties. The final confrontation came during the last grand party of the season. Maggie was talking with a group when she felt Percival's presence behind her. When she turned, she found him with an expression she had never seen before. Determination mixed with fear, vulnerability mixed with strength. "I need to speak with you," he said, his voice carrying a weight that silenced everyone around them. "In private." She followed him to a moonlit terrace, aware that dozens of eyes were watching them through the glass doors. The garden stretched out below them, fragrant with roses, and the sky was dotted with stars that seemed like silent witnesses to what was about to happen. "The season ends in 3 days," he said, his hands gripping the stone balustrade, "and I have to make a decision." "What decision?" He turned to face her, and Maggie saw a battle being waged in his eyes. The boy who had learned not to feel versus the man who was discovering he could no longer stop himself. "You asked me once why I couldn't love," he said. "The truth is, I always believed I was incapable, that something was broken in me, something my father destroyed when I was too young to defend myself. I spent my entire life confirming that belief, keeping everyone at a distance, proving to myself that coldness was my nature. And now I don't know what's true anymore." He took a step toward her, his eyes never leaving hers. "You showed up with your absurd bet and your disconcerting honesty, and suddenly all the certainties I had began to crumble." Maggie felt her heart race. "Percival, I don't know how to love the way people expect," he continued, the words tumbling out like a forced confession. "I don't know how to make grand declarations or romantic gestures. I don't know how to be what the poets describe or what women dream of, but I've learned something I never expected to learn." "What?" "I've learned how to feel. With you, I've learned to feel things I'd spent my whole life pretending didn't exist. And now I have to decide if I'm going to run away like I always have, or if I'm going to have the courage to stay." Maggie reached out and touched his face, feeling the tense jaw beneath her fingers. "I never wanted you to become someone else. I never wanted grand declarations or romantic gestures. I just wanted you to stop running from yourself. And the bet was just an excuse, a way to give myself permission to try something I was too afraid to admit I wanted." He covered her hand with his, their fingers intertwining. "What did you want? You. Not the Duke, not the title, not the fortune. You. The man who hides a dry wit behind a cold exterior, the man who remembers every detail of what I say, the man who pretends not to care while watching my every move when he thinks I'm not looking." For the first time, Maggie saw what looked like tears in Percival's eyes. They didn't fall. He had too much control for that, but they were there, shimmering in the moonlight. "Loving isn't a talent," he said, his voice hoarse. "It's a choice. I spent my life choosing not to feel. Now I'm choosing differently." "And what are you choosing?" "You. I'm choosing you, Maggie. Not because you won some bet, not because society expects it. I'm choosing you because for the first time in my life, I want to choose something that makes me feel alive instead of safe." When he kissed her, it was as if all the barriers between them finally crumbled. The kiss was gentle at first, almost hesitant, as if he were learning something entirely new. Then it deepened, filled with years of repressed emotions, finally finding their release. His hands found her waist, pulling her closer, and hers rose to his neck, feeling the rapid pulse beneath her fingertips. Through the glass doors, society watched in shocked silence. The Duke, who would never love anyone, was kissing the woman who had bet that he could. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathless. Percival rested his forehead against hers, his grey eyes softer than she had ever seen them. "I should warn you," he murmured. "I won't be easy. I'll still have days when control feels safer than feeling. I'll still have moments when I want to run. And I'll be there to remind you that it's worth it to stay. The wedding took place 3 months later, in a ceremony that was the talk of the town. The Ice Duke marrying a textile magnate's daughter for love. The vicious tongues worked overtime, but nothing they said mattered to the two people at the center of the story. Maggie wore an ivory silk gown she had helped design herself, her auburn hair worn down in curls that framed her radiant face. Percival waited for her at the altar with an expression few had ever seen on him. Happiness, genuine, vulnerable, courageous happiness. The vows they exchanged were simple, but loaded with meaning. She promised never to ask him to be anyone but himself. He promised to never stop choosing her, even on the hard days. The years passed like pages in a book whose ending was more beautiful than anyone had dared to predict. The mansion, once known for its owner's coldness, filled with life, with laughter, with a love that didn't need to hide. 3 children completed their family. 2 girls with their mother's green eyes and their father's determined spirit, and a boy with his father's grey eyes and his mother's easy smile. Percival never turned into another man. He was still reserved in public, still preferred silence to empty chatter, still had trouble expressing emotions in conventional ways. But he learned to love in his own way, in small gestures that Maggie knew how to recognize, in the way he always knew when she needed quiet, in the way he remembered her every preference without having to ask, in the way he would look at her across crowded rooms as if she were the only person there. Maggie never had to change who she was. She kept her honesty, her sharp wit, her refusal to shrink. And she discovered that was exactly what Percival loved most about her, her courage to be authentic in a world of masks. One summer evening, many years after the bet that had changed everything, they found themselves on the same terrace where he had first kissed her. The children were asleep, the house was quiet, and the stars shone just as they had on that distant night. "Do you remember?" she asked, leaning against the balustrade beside him. "Every moment," he replied, "every word, every second I fought against what I was feeling and lost. You didn't lose, you chose." He turned to look at her, and even after all those years, Maggie still felt her heart race when she met those grey eyes that no longer held any coldness. "Sometimes I think," he said, "about what would have happened if you hadn't made that bet, if you hadn't had the courage to confront me. And what do you conclude? That I'd probably still be drifting through the seasons like a ghost, pretending I didn't need anything or anyone. You saved me from myself, Maggie, even when I was fighting not to be saved." She smiled, that smile he had learned to love more than anything in the world. "The bet was never about proving you could love," she said. "It was about showing that you deserved to be loved, exactly as you were, with all your difficulties and fears." He pulled her into his arms, holding her the same way he had thousands of times over the years, a way that never lost its power, to make them both feel whole. "Sometimes," he murmured against her hair, "all it takes to change an old certainty is someone willing to make a courageous bet, and someone willing not to run away when they lose," she finished. And there, on that terrace bathed in starlight, 2 hearts that had found each other against all odds silently celebrated the simplest and most profound truth there is, that love isn't a talent some are born with and others are not. It is a choice we make every day, in every gesture, in every word, in every moment we decide to stay instead of run. Hey everyone, we hope this story touched your heart. If you were moved, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments what part resonated with you the most. Every day, we bring you real stories, full of emotion and humanity. Your voice is part of this universe.